Alrighty, welcome everyone. Happy Friday afternoon. We're gonna get started in just a second. Um,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. We are PreMed CC, a student-led organization established in the fall of 2021. Our goal as an organization was to create an online community for pre-medical students at community colleges and universities with the hope of guiding the next generation of diverse and inclusive physicians.
And while we advertise our organization as being for community college students, our events are open to anyone. We realize that finding guidance and mentorship in a pre-med journey can be especially challenging for first-generation pre-med students, people that lack the financial resources, or just those that do not know people in the medical field.
One of the best parts about our events is that they are virtual, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home. We typically have events on Fridays from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. PST, and on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. PST.
If you aren't able to attend the event, all our sessions are uploaded on our YouTube channel. Many of our sessions will end with Q&A with our speakers. Any questions that you have can be put in the Q&A section on Zoom, and our team members will read them and have them answered.
After you have attended our event, you can log on to our website and complete the quiz, which will contain questions pertaining to our session today.
If you score 70% or higher on the quiz, you'll be awarded a 2-hour mentorship certificate to show that you attended our session today.
If you want to stay connected with our upcoming events or want to tell your pre-med friends about PreMed CC, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at PreMed CC.
Alrighty, well, welcome everyone. We're glad today our speaker, Christi Candido, is a graduate of University of California, Davis, and was a major in biological sciences and minored in science and society. As a first-generation, non-traditional and immigrant, she created a blueprint to be successful through her medical school journey. And she wants to share that blueprint with future generations to ease their trek towards becoming a physician. She has completed, after graduating UC Davis, she completed a informal do-it-yourself post-bac at local community colleges and a formal post-bac program at CSU East Bay PHAP program. In total of post-bac years, she did 2 years of being part-time student while working and a year and a half full-time student while studying for the MCAT. She's currently a first-year medical student at the University of California, Davis in the REACH track, which she will share that with you what that is. And she basically called her gap years growth years, and she did about 5 years of those. And she is enjoying med school and will soon know what she wants to be when she grows up.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. Let me go ahead and share some slides with you all. And before we get started, I do want to know, where's everybody from?
I'm
just typing.
I'm putting a poll in there, so we'll find out in
Okay.
just a second.
I just want to know, where is everyone coming from?
You guys could put that in the chat if you want to just or answer the poll, whichever one.
Yeah, whichever.
Sacramento.
Hey. Welcome. You're just here.
San Diego.
Nice. Michigan. All right. Stockton. Hey. Fullerton. Crescent City. Philadelphia.
Irvine. San Francisco.
That's fun. These are fun places, and you all are
California. Okay, California is a big place. Come on. Gotta be more specific. Because there's like NorCal, which is like the real Cal, and then there's SoCal, which is not the real Cal. Oakland. That's where I am right now. Fresno, San Diego.
Nice. Okay. I feel like everyone is mainly from the West Coast. So that's good. Wow, SoCal's not the real. Wow, you're starting fights here? Okay.
Tampa.
Y'all.
Lord.
Okay, great. Well, I'm happy to have all y'all here wherever you are from. Thanks for joining me in my talk. I'm so excited to share a lot about my journey with you all. And it's not the most linear, and you'll definitely see that through my talk on just like it, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. Here's a very nice long title for my talk, which you guys can read. But I'm a first year medical student here at Davis School of Medicine, and I am part of the REACH track, which stands for Reimagining Education to Advance Central California Health. And it just is Central Valley focused in regards to underserved population. So that's what that part, that's what group I'm part of. And there's multiple community health scholar tracks here. So if you're interested, I could DM you that later if you are interested in serving a certain population in Central and Northern California. But before we get started, I do want to mention the acknowledgement of country. So I want to make sure we acknowledge the land that we're on. Everybody seems to be everywhere and anywhere, but here we do want to honor and respect the indigenous peoples as the custodians of the lands on which we gather today. And we pay respect to elders past and present. And it's very nice to meet you all. And I wanted to make sure that my opinions are solely my own and not the organization in which I sit in today. So don't cite me for anything that I've said. And if you do have any clarifying questions, I'm happy to answer them at the end. To just get started, I do need another poll. Is that where's everyone at in their journey?
So
I didn't put.
I've already put out the poll, so it's
Where's
people
that
are
at?
filling it out. So I'll post it
Perfect.
in just a second.
Perfect. And I didn't put E if you're already part of like a professional program. I didn't put that, but I do want to know where everybody's at in
I'll
their
share the
journey.
poll in just a second. All right.
Sounds good.
We're gonna leave the 15 more seconds. Please respond. So come on. You can do it. You can do it. All right, 9 more seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5.
Wow, okay. Varying community college, yeah, college. You just graduated, and post-bac. Okay, wonderful. I mean, I could talk about all this because obviously I went to high school, I went to community college, and I obviously graduated and I did a post-bac. So it's good that we see a diverse range of backgrounds on where we're at today. So it's good to know so that I can center my talk to something more relatable to you all. And then I do have another poll, but I don't think that this is a poll that I shared, is that, and then you might have to put it in the chat, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how certain are you that you want to be in medicine? So 10 being like, I know this is my life calling, I'm going to pursue medicine. There is no plan B or C. And 1 is like, not necessarily I don't want to be in medicine, but I want to be in healthcare. Like, jokes. Alrighty. Nice. Okay. So it seems that I think I consider like 8 and above pretty sure that that medicine is going to be your career path and you see it more as a lifestyle and a calling. And then 2, okay. Yeah, and 2, you're still exploring, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. That's good because I traversed literally the scale of 1 to 10 through the journey of medicine. So more or less by the time you apply, obviously you'll be at a 10, but maybe if you're in community college, you'll feel that you're like a 1 or 2, or maybe in high school, like maybe you're a 10 in high school, who knows? It's a different part of each person's journey and it's individualized to you and what your experiences are. So don't feel any certain way. I'm just gauging. And then for those who are 8 and above, and those maybe if you're 2, do know your why. And why means like why medicine? Why being a physician is the thing that's going to make you feel like your life is full. And it could just be a yes or no or a thumbs up, wherever. Like, it's a yes. Like, do you know it? Do you know like why you like want to be a doctor? Like for me, my why was because I grew up in an underserved community, lack of accessibility to healthcare. I took care of my grandma, and pseudo grandparents. I know it. Just trying. Yes, yes. Okay, great. Laura, you bring a very good point to the table. Was that you know it's there, but you don't exactly know how to, put it into words, and that's definitely a common sentiment, especially when you're trying to prepare for the application. I knew that I wanted to do medicine, but I personally didn't know how to put it succinctly. And a secondary served underserved community. Okay, nice, Paul. Yeah, I know for sure that I want to work in healthcare, but I don't know if I want to be a doctor. Okay, yeah. And I think it comes from seeing multiple people around us in like underrepresented communities struggle with healthcare, and so you want to be that person that pivots that away. So that's a good like foundation to exploring why healthcare like should be or could be for you. For those who said yes and still working on it, a question that I have is where did you figure out your why? Like you knew your why. So let's say like you're in the library and you're writing your personal statement or something like that. And that's in your head, you knew your why then. Or did you know your why in medicine kind of like a seed? You were like 8 years old and you were running to like a pharmacy stand to get like aspirin or something for your grandma. Like what age did you know like your why? Like, and where was it? Like you don't have to tell me your why, nothing. I only ask because some people, and those who are about to apply, I feel that secured a corner in the library, and I thought writing my why in this corner of the library would be the place that I would get my inspiration, like from above. But the wording and how to write it in my AMCAS primaries and ACOMAS primaries was going to come to me, but mine actually came in the shower. So take breaks, self-care, and for those who are wondering, I'm still trying to figure out how to word it, but I know it. Take a walk. Like, go take a walk, go shopping, take care of yourself. Sometimes it'll just come to you. For me, and now 37, my why is not only for my changes. Okay, I think my why is a more slow burn than a spark. Yes, sometimes I think people wait for say yes to the dress moment, but it's not usually like that. It's a whole bunch of little things that compound into big things that make you want to say yes. Like I want to be in medicine. It's not necessarily a moment where you're like, yeah, like my fire within is burning for medicine. It's definitely like not like that. My seed started when I was young, but I keep having problems. Yeah, okay. So these are great. So if you are writing something in the chat, just remember these. I'm asking these questions because as you get ready to apply to whatever a healthcare professional school that you're interested in, just screenshot what you just wrote and just remind yourself that your why is either a culmination of things. It might not be a culmination of experiences, but remind yourself when you're writing later that what you've written today. So like basically start taking notes of all these feelings and emotions as you write them, because a mentor told me, and this is just a side note, a mentor told me is that in most cases, nobody cares really the exact reason of why, like when they're reading your personal statement, like the exact way it happened, but it's more about the emotions that makes you motivated to be in medicine. So how you explain your why is the most important thing. It's not necessarily about the why, though it's important and significant to saying who you are, but it's more or less like what emotions do you invoke to AdComs, the admissions committee, or like the reader. So put that down, that somewhere, tuck it in your back pocket, and then hopefully that will come into play when you're applying. I want to help the language barriers. My mom is a victim of medical error. Oh, okay. So what emotions does that invoke in you? Yes. Would you say to ask ourselves how our why makes us feel? Yes. So these two questions, like Paul and Denise said, these are the questions you should be asking yourself when you're writing about your why statement, or like why medicine, why being a doctor is everything to you. Like everybody will write about that one time they volunteered somewhere, or maybe they grew up with a sick parent or sick a relative, and it's about the emotions that you describe it in that will inspire the reader to say, hey, that's the next generation of the future of medicine. Like that's the next generation that will like take care of me. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. So like if you have particular specific questions about your writing, things like that, we can talk about it. Happy to work through it all with you. I do have a secondary application workshop that will come up next year. So I am happy to sit down with you all. And obviously, I think you all found me in Instagram. So just DM me, happy to answer. So moving forward, if I explained really the nuances of my medical school journey, I think we'd be here for longer than an hour and a half. And I do not want to really engage in that right now. The tiny nuances could be explained later. But in general, I could just explain that I graduated UC Davis, like the intro mentioned. I did an informal post-bac in 2018. I started it slowly. I didn't really get into it because like maybe most minorities, I struggled with imposter syndrome, like feeling like a sense of belonging, especially in medicine. Someone who's a person of color, someone who is like female, identifies as female. I struggled a lot with taking the space that I needed. So I kind of dove into it slowly. I did an informal post-bac. That's the first thing because I had imposter syndrome. Second is I wasn't even good enough to make it to formal post-bac. In general, and to explain what a post-bac is, just in case, baccalaureate is your undergraduate degree and post just means after. Most GPA requirements for a formal post-bac, like through a four-year institution, is about 2.7. So I didn't even have, so I needed to, and that's me graduating from undergrad. So if you relate to this in any way, like feel free that I hear you and I see you and you're not alone in this. So I did an informal post-bac, applied to a formal post-bac, and I was already I had a plan. Basically, after I was done with my formal post-bac, I was going to apply to medical school. So I did a whole year and a semester of a formal post-bac. And my formal post-bac at CSU East State offered me a committee letter, which is just a conglomerate of like piles of letters from different professors saying like, take her, she's great. Like, don't look at the past. She's brand new. Like, accept her. And so I got that letter, and then obviously I redid everything. I rewrote who I was academically because academics was really the thing that I needed the most help in. And with that, with the blessing of my post-bac committee, I applied to med school, as well as the blessing of some of my mentors. I applied to med school August 27th of 2022. And I don't know if y'all has checked Reddit or SDN or if you've heard of it. It's the keyboard warriors of the internet will say that that's late. Don't even apply if you're applying August 27th. But I was confident that I was putting really my best foot forward in applying. And I don't think I could have topped like anything that I've done because I came in really thinking that if I did everything to 100%, I'll have no regrets. Like I know I'll get in somewhere because I worked on like my academics, my MCAT, my extracurriculars. Like I did everything I could. And nothing really was going to stop me because at that point I knew my why. I was at a 12, like one of you said. Like I knew already that this was my lifestyle, not a career. And then I had a successful I got into UC Davis, so I had a successful medical school application. I got into another school, but I wanted UC Davis because I am a UC Davis for lifer, so I went undergrad. And a lot of my projects are here, and so I wanted to continue them at the student-run clinic. So UC Davis has tons of student-run clinics. So if you wanted to help kind of in an underserved population of your choice, we have tons. So something to shout out for UC Davis. I will pause real quick to see if there's any questions as of right now. Nice. Okay. Continuing on. Before I even got to this point, sitting right here to you all, because there's 51 of y'all in here, is that I couldn't have done it without these people. Really, like the people around you is everything. Every one of these people and underneath these big categories are individuals that talked against the barrier of imposter syndrome to me. Because in my head, I was like, okay, I'm tall. I like I struggle academically, like I'm low SES, like I kept talking down on myself, but all of these people in these brackets really showed me that I I could be a light in medicine. And so that was something that was reiterated, and I had the confidence, I gained the confidence to even apply to medical school. Another big one I want to say is the scholarship donors. This is expensive. This whole thing is expensive, as you all know. And like you gotta kind of finesse it in such a way and look for scholarships, make connections. And I was able to apply to medical school using the fee assistance program, obviously, but I didn't have that much debt in applying to medical school. And a lot of people I know did have a lot of debt, and they had to kind of like figure out their finances so that they can afford it. But yeah, so a lot of these individuals, I won't shout all of them out because it's a running total of like 77 people. These are all, well, not all of them. Some of them are in here, and I had to like squish all these pictures to be really small. But if you see yourself, it'd be, it'd be nice. You were a part of my journey, and I'm appreciative of you. A lot of these people have impacted me in such a way, not only academically, professionally, but personally. And I wouldn't, yeah, the Christi you know in front of you today is not the Christi then without these people. So beautiful. Okay, taking a step back. Do y'all know that ideal steps, aka the traditional path to medicine, to medical school? This is it. So if you're planning to take like one gap year or even matriculate right after a 4-year undergraduate education, this is what you would be thinking about / planning to do if you're in high school. This could also work if you're a community college transfer. It will be like you're taking classes, you're starting to think about volunteering, research. Research is not necessary in this, but you do need it to be a little bit more competitive depending on a school. And then you'll also start thinking of like letters of rec, and you'll just do all this. And then you take the MCAT between your third, you can take it in your second and third if you have the prereqs, or the third and fourth or something like that. And then basically you just be ready to apply your 4th year if this is one gap year, and then application year, which is where we interview on all that, like in your gap year, one gap year. So technically, I think this is the more like linear path, like not a lot of breaks in between. But yeah, it didn't work out for me. Like this is not like obviously I'm here talking to you today because that's not the path I took. And like, do I regret my path? No. Would I want to have done this path? Yes. Why? Because I feel like, this saves time and money. Like you just go straight and like I did have like a career before medical school, but this, like, it seems like more like time is money, you get out quicker, get ahead, But for me, it didn't work out. And a part of me also says that I'm not mature enough. So if I had applied like maybe 21, 22, 23, I don't think I would have been mature enough to go through the cycle and like accept like the rejection part of the cycle. So that's something also that I think y'all should think about. Like, what is your relationship with failure? What is your relationship to feedback, constructive feedback? And if you can say that, hey, I embrace that, I encourage it, and I'm willing to kind of take it in and see which steps and in which areas I can improve on, then yeah, apply. I think the cycle takes too many people out in regards to like their mental health and like them feeling secure about themselves. So I think be really prepared in facing rejection. And like I said, money is necessary. This is last year. This was my matriculation year, the stats for it. And being someone who had low SES, who worked for her own money, was working 3 jobs at once, it was apparent that like this was not possible if I didn't have money or some sort of fee assistance. And the stats are crazy. If you think about it, like 51-ish people applied my cycle. 21 of those people got in. And then the 18% of those who got in are identified as disadvantage? What happens to the other, like, whatever math that is? Like, and this 13% qualified for the FAP, which is the fee assistance program, which is in the chat. Like, that's crazy. So if someone who identifies as disadvantaged, aka me, or someone who qualifies for fee assistance program, aka someone who's broke, which is also me, and this is the stats of those getting in, like, this path isn't made for us. Like, this system isn't made for people who identify as these. But like I said, and this is like the theme of my talk, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. And like mentioning that I come from low socioeconomic status, SES, I've been saying that, but I will clarify socioeconomic status. I'm Asian, so in that regards, I fall in an overrepresented in medicine category. In some cases, in most cases, because of the way it gets, I don't know, partitioned into the system, I am underrepresented in medicine because of my minority status, but I'm also an immigrant. So these are, in this case, identities that work against me. But I don't let those really define me. And I'm proud to be all of these things because it's made me who I am today. But like, those don't say like being an immigrant requires you to be like flexible. Like, it makes you unique in regards to like, you have to figure out like resources on your own. It makes you independent. Like, being low SES, you know that, like, yes, you might not have the grander things in life, but you know how to work hard for it. And you're accepting of like the little things that you have. I didn't even know I was disadvantaged until I was applying to medical school because I was happy with what I got. Like, being underrepresented in medicine, even in an overrepresented category, like, I feel like I bring a perspective that's different from maybe the next person who's overrepresented in medicine. So these identities, even though on paper it looks terrible and maybe it will like, it looks like I will have a hard time getting into medicine, just looking at the stats, like it's possible. Like, I got it. And people around me in my class alone, it's 70% disadvantaged at UC Davis. And we're ranked in 2023 as the third most diverse in the national news. So like, it's possible to get here in the space. And I mean, it's not easy, like I said. Speaking of not easy, this is my steps to medicine. Just look at this, which is 4 years and maybe a year of a gap year. This was mine. And this has no years to it because experience is not defined in years. It's defined by the experience. But these are what you needed. Okay, steps to medicine. Obviously, you need the prereqs. You need a bachelor's degree, MCAT, letters of recommendation, extracurriculars. That's not unique to anybody. Everybody needs that. You need it to even just be in medicine. But under those things are things that I personally struggle with. And so I'm being vulnerable to you all today, and obviously the whole wide world, aka the internet, because this is recorded. But I just want to make sure that you all know, if you're struggling in so many ways that is relatable to mine, there's a way to get here. There is, because I'm that person. So you need prereqs, right? So, and mostly they need to be kind of in the sciences. Actually, all the prereqs are mostly in sciences. I think some schools differ, but mostly it is in BCPM, which is biochem, physics, and math. And so in my head, in high school, I was like, oh, I'm going to do a bachelor's in science and biological sciences because that will make sure this thing is taken care of. The BCPM. I don't know if you guys can see my arrow, but if not, it's okay. So I got a BS, but through the BCPM and taking those prereqs, I struggled. So then the academic advisor was like, girl, you got to change. You go to a BA because like you can't be taking all these like upper division classes and like failing them. Like, that's not it. Like, that is not going to get you anywhere. So I moved from BS to a BA, continued to struggle, and ended with a 2.6-ish. And that's cumulative. And my science was probably lower than that because I had a minor in more of like a social science. And at the end of it, I was like, should I do a post-bac or a master's? So if you're at this point, because there's some of you who answered that you graduated and maybe you're at a crossroad of where you're at in regards to like, what should I do? Should I do a master's, a special master's program that's attached to a medical school? Maybe it'll be easier for me to get into medical school, or a post-bac where I can work on my undergraduate GPA. Both of those are perfectly good options for you, but depending on like your situation. And I can go through that in a separate talk, and you can talk to me individually about how I picked mine. I did apply to special master's program because I thought this is what I want. I knew like I'm a 10, 11, 12 in regards to my certainty. And I thought maybe this is the easiest way. But remember, I'm broke. So a master's program costs a lot of money. Not that the postdoc didn't, but I was able to take some in the community college because I had to take some of my lower division classes just to rewrite that whole academic novel of who I am. And so master's was expensive. A master's also, there wasn't a lot near me, but I was able to get into one in Northern California near Vallejo. But I was thinking, and I was talking to a lot of mentors and advisors, so that's my, a third tip of mine, if you're writing something down, is that talk to advisors from maybe the schools that you're interested in. I talked to one of them, and they said that in most cases, if your undergraduate GPA is below a certain threshold, like their minimum requirement, you're going to get screened out, even if you have this marvelous 4.0 in a master's program, because those two things are separated into whatever the computer does. So you get automatically screened out if your undergraduate GPA cumulatively in sciences is not at the threshold that they say. Each school is different, but in general, it's 3.0 for both of those. So cumulative and science GPA. And mine was obviously below. So I decided that I wanted to do a post-bac. I was already taking my informal post-bac just to even prepare to even get into a formal or a master's. So I got like a 2.7, 2.8, 2.9 or something like that. And I was like, what do I do now? Granted, you guys know, I also graduated with a science degree. So the denominator of all my science classes are so saturated. I was only moving like 0.01%, like slowly taking at least like 18 semester units like every semester. So at one point I was taking 23. I almost did. You don't also get any like degree for your post-bac. You kind of get like a certificate maybe, or like that community or the committee letter. But I almost I should have just gotten the second degree because I ended up getting like 105 semester units in my post-bac just to rewrite who I am. And I think that's what showed in my application. Besides, writing is also very important, but it showed that like I was willing to like leave that person behind who struggled and didn't ask for help, who didn't lean on others, who didn't quite know who she was behind, so that this person can replace that person. And like I'm always the type of person who's like, I really just want to be better. Like I want to improve. Like I don't want to sit kind of stagnant for so long because I feel like there's always room for me to grow. So obviously I chose the post-bac, so that's where we're at right now in this whole grand scheme of a roller coaster. So I was doing post-bac, I was studying for my MCAT and working. Yes.
Can you also tell them that some of the special master's program, they're really expensive and you don't qualify for any subsidized loans?
Yeah.
And they're very expensive. And even though they have linkage programs, your GPA also for master's is separated from your undergraduate. So you have to take that into consideration as well. But the cost is, I mean, some of the special master's program are like $60,000 a year. So
yeah, I second that. So that's really, emphasis on those things because it's depending where you're at, if you're at 3.2, 3.3, like you're not going to get screened out. If you have like the money and maybe you are interested in this master's program, let's do it. And like you want to go to that school. So it really is dependent on you, but it is expensive and private loans only, mostly. So obviously while I was doing all that, working 3 jobs or so, 2.5, sometimes off season, I was studying for the MCAT, which I postponed multiple times. And that's why I postponed 3 times because I postponed it 3 times during the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, they offered a abridged version of the MCAT, and I fell for that. But I was like, no, I'm gonna only take it once and do it right once. But no, I took it twice. Like I did it the first time, did not score well. I didn't break 500. And I knew I needed above a 500 because that's the minimum most schools. So to think about that, you have the GPA threshold in general would be a 3, but you also need an MCAT score of at least 500 for some schools. Most schools is generalized, but you'd have to look specifically for what school you're looking at. I took it twice, got the score that I wanted my second time. If you want to see my reaction to that, it's on my Instagram, because I told my family that if it's good, we're going to apply. And obviously we're here today, so it's good. And this took just those 3 points to the left, like prereqs, bachelor's degree, MCAT. Those all took like basically the 4 years, like plus undergrad. And then I was also doing a lot of extracurriculars. And like, if there's something I can't fail at, it's overcommitting to extracurriculars. It's something that fills my cup, so I end up just doing them. I almost have to like give myself a check every time I sign up for something, and those were either clinical or non-clinical. But it was, I think, the most beautiful part of my journey here today, like 4.5 years plus undergrad of volunteering, clinical work, clinical research, like working on like publications and doing nonprofit work, giving back to the underserved. Like those reignited, if not re-solidified, like why medicine is right for me or why I feel so alive in it. And the plus thing about it is that because that passion showed, it was easy for my letter writers to write about it for me. And so I got about 5 to 6 letters, and average, you might need 3 to apply to medical school. Some schools differ, like 5, they might do 6. It really depends on what platform you're applying to. So ACOMAS versus MCAS, you can look all that up. But in this roller coaster ride of like my medical school journey and just getting here, a lot of it was taking a step back and reflecting. Like truly, like at every failure, I start to think like, is this right for me? That's normal. That's a normal thought to have as a human being. Failure will be around the corner as well as success. And sometimes when you face failures, you might think like, am I just knocking so hard on something that's not going to open? Like, or am I going against the grain? Maybe this is not meant for me. But not everything is about signs. Not everything is like a failure is not a no, like a door in the face. You can slowly open that door. So to me, every time, obviously I got moved from a Bachelor of Science to a Bachelor of Arts, not because of my choice, but I reflected on it. And yeah, I didn't take the time to study. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to ask for help. And that's something I'm still working on today. And every setback, pause and reassess, really like, what do I need to do? What am I lacking? And maybe you don't have the answer right there and there, but maybe you can ask someone who loves and cares for you and to give you constructive feedback and say like, hey, you don't really take the time to like prioritize your studies, or like I haven't seen you at office hours, or like, did you attend that conference? Like maybe you should attend that pre-health conference. Like you'll learn so much more about it, and be open-minded for those feedback. I think younger me, maybe at 20, would have been kind of like, if I received feedback, sometimes it felt more of a negative criticism. So just being open to accepting some sort of feedback. But yeah, this is not like this is just like a snapshot of it. Like I think if we went straight to the years or like months, I could talk more about like where I was at that point. Like I joined Me Mentor. I was part of their medical school readiness program, and so I just want to plug that in too, because that was such a pivotal part of my journey, getting a mentor that was in medicine that looked like me. He was a internal medicine doctor, but he was such a light in this journey. Like he reminded me not to put too much energy in things that maybe I would have. Like I stopped working. I didn't work for the first time in my life during my post-bac, my formal post-bac. I was working during my informal just to pay for it, but during that time I didn't. And the second thing too, another plug, is that my post-bac, I paid for the first semester, but my post-bac at that time, I don't know if that's happening now, offered merit scholarships. So if you're looking for a post-bac, ask about the scholarships, like merit scholarships. If you get a certain GPA, and maybe you have a letter of rec, and maybe you write an essay of some sort, like what type of scholarships do they give you So every one of my semesters after my first semester was paid for. So I didn't really pay that much, except that I was commuting a lot. So 2 hours back and forth, and I was staying like in like a friend's house. Uh, so it was just one of those that there's a solution. Like let pivot, readjust, pause, take 2 steps back, ask for feedback. Like that's all it takes to make your own blueprint to medicine. And like I said, because I've been talking for about 20 minutes straight, like I said, it's not easy, but it's not impossible to be here. And like I can honestly say that medical school, like this year, because I'm almost done with the first year, has been really, truly the happiest time of my life because it just feels right. It feels like all of the hardships that I went through is worth something. And the resilience that I showed throughout all of this really is a testament to what I could bring to my future patients. Like I won't give up on my patients. So like it's not easy. It's not, it's not impossible. It's definitely hard, and there's a lot of movement and a lot of thinking involved in planning, but you're not alone. And now more than ever on the internet like this, PreMed CC, there's a lot of mentorship that's available online. So there's ways to go about it. And I do have, if you want to know exactly like details about like my journey here, UC Davis Health wrote an article about me and kind of like basically everything I've said today, but more in like, if you weren't paying attention for the last 40 minutes and you just want to read a 3-minute blurb, this is it. And then just to remind you all, like, what are the takeaways from this talk? Like, be familiar with failure, rejection, setbacks. They're your biggest friends. Sometimes they feel like the enemies, and it seems like demons trying to take you down, but it's really not it. I think like now I see failure as a way for me to assess really what I'm lacking and how could I fill in that gap. And then when I see rejection, I think of it more as either protecting my energy for something, or it's a redirection towards something. And then setbacks are just a way for me to take a pause. Like, okay, like this didn't work out this way, but like, okay, like did I really need that right now? Like, is that serving me right now? I encourage you all to try to receive feedback positively and encourage you to get feedback in some sort of way in this process. Because I've written my personal statement draft for like I had 15 drafts and one of them was 6 pages long. So like either way, like nothing is perfect the first time. If it is perfect the first time, like I want to be you, really. You should be giving this talk right now. And then third, be sensitive to when you need help. Like, don't ignore the signs that you feel inside you when you feel like you're struggling. I'm one to talk because I struggled asking for help, but the step before that is knowing when you need help. Like, I didn't think I needed help because I was like, I'll figure it out. But like, those type of statements reinforce and perpetuate that hyper independence that won't serve you in the long run, because medicine is an interdisciplinary team effort to help and serve patients. So you need to really have that sensitive gauge in yourself that, hey, like I'm struggling, it doesn't feel comfortable. I need to either ask for help, get the feedback, get like office hours or something. And then lastly, because I mentioned all these people that have helped me get here, not because like I don't think I'm special at all. These people are around the corner. I just needed to give a part of myself back to the village that helped me here. And like once I showed really like who I am, like what I'm about, people believed in me before I even believed in myself. So surrounding yourself with a community that's positive, that will lift you up in certain situations that you yourself cannot see yourself get out of is really it. Like, I can't tell you how many times that I feel uplifted by people around me. Like right now in medical school, like my community has changed and people have been added. And I felt like I said, has been like one of the happiest things I've ever experienced in my life. Academically, it's still a struggle, but I got these 4 things down. So There's
Yeah.
nothing that I can't do.
And I think like the whole idea of failure and rejection and setbacks, that's like if you're going to go down this route, start learning mechanism to deal with that because you're going to deal with it. You're going to apply to a program you're not going to get in. You're going to apply for a scholarship that you really wanted, you didn't get in. You're going to for program. You're going to lose a patient. That's guaranteed. You're going to lose a patient and you need to be able to, also deal with that as well. So failure is this entire process. And if you don't know how to deal with it or cope with it, then it's going to be really, really challenging for you to go down. So failure is part of the process.
Yes, exactly. And just to end, and me encouraging you to ask for help or like any clarifying questions if I wasn't clear about something, ESL. Obviously there's some like questions in the Q&A, like I'd be happy to answer them and as they come along. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you for giving me the space that maybe I wouldn't have had in the past years. And like I kind of get emotional every time I do a talk like this because it's like I'm talking to little me like years ago, and like little me, younger me, sorry, I'm not that little, but like younger me would have been so grateful for someone talking to them and making them feel seen. And I'm the me now that younger me wanted to be. And so I want to make sure that you feel like you're supported in your journey, no matter how like windy or roller coaster it can get. But thank you. I'm done.
All right, so I'm going to try to go through some of these. What's the biggest tip that stands out for you that for someone that had a very low GPA? How did you overcome that, and how did you um, manage to boost your GPA?
Yes, a very low GPA is also defined individually, I think, in school wise. I'm not sure what your personal like situation is, but for me, I knew I had to take classes. Like the answer is like you have to take classes, like science classes, both lower division and higher division. The way I was gonna do it, and maybe this is not encouraged like in general, is I retook all my classes that I didn't do well in. So it didn't trump my old GPA, but I was able to write a different narrative where I felt like I could say like, hey, I got a D in Chem 2C, which is like the first gen chem or like the last of the series. And I was able to like say something about that in my activities or in my personal statement. So I think my best advice for you is that I need you to calculate your actual GPA based on the AMCAS or the ACMIS, double ACMIS GPA calculation, and literally tell me what it is. Like if it's a 2.5, it's doable. Like I did it. I think my undergraduate science GPA cumulative before post-bac, obviously I had to do 105, so it must have been so low. It was I think it could have been close to 2.1 or something like that. That's science. So it's possible, it's doable. Get to a 3. 3 is like your cutoff. There are some schools, and I like Dr. Gray's book about the medical school application process. There's some schools that look at the last 32 hours. It's called the 32-hour rule. So some medical schools will just look at, your last 32 hours and say that's your most recent snapshot of who you are academically. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, it's a linear progression. So if your grades are like this, that go up, the further you are, the better it is. Somebody wanted to do what is exactly a post-bac?
Yes.
Can you
What is
explain that?
exactly a post-bac or a DIY post-bac? Where are we at?
Well, DI post, what is a post-bac, and then
Oh,
what's a DUI post-bac?
okay. Yeah. So post-bac is just short for post-baccalaureate, and baccalaureate is just your 4-year undergraduate degree, or like if you're a transfer, it's just that degree. Post just means after. So after your undergraduate degree, where you just do more coursework. There's 2 types, and one is an academic enhancing, which is the one I needed. And the second one is career changer. So let's say if you're in business, you needed to take the prereqs to get into like whatever professional school. That's another type of post. Um, is there a secondary question to that?
Yeah, and then just like what is it DIY post-bac and how did you do it
Yes.
yourself post-bac?
Yes. Okay. So that's a great question. DIY and informal are the same thing. Um, DIY is do it yourself, obviously, and you would be picking your classes. You can take any of these classes really anywhere. Like you can take it at community college. Some schools will go against that because the rigor is different, but I encourage it if you're broke. Like, why would you, why would you put yourself in so much more debt? And like they could see that you're disadvantaged. Like, and then you putting yourself in more debt in general is not good, one, for your financial well-being, and two, your actual emotional well-being. Like struggling with food insecurity, housing insecurity are consequences of how much people want this, and people exploit the business of being in medical, like trying to get into medical school. And that's just a hot take on my part. But that's why I went towards community college path, and I did, I think 45, maybe 35 or something like that, 30 to 40 something semester credit units there to get my GPA up to like a 2.8 or something like that to apply to a formal post-bac. And you can take it at 4 year, like extension, like most universities have an extension. You could also take it at like technically you could just University of Phoenix, you could technically. You
Actually,
just need,
University of Phoenix is not accredited everywhere,
just
so
kidding. Do not do
yeah.
that.
So yeah, University of Phoenix is going to be challenging. So if you're in California, and Arizona or like California, I know this California for a fact is it's $46 a unit, versus like some of the extension programs are almost $900 a unit for a class. Also in California, if you're if you're poor, I think if you make below 20 some odd $1,000, you don't have to pay any fees. So it's, you know, so I think all of those like costs, like unless you're independently wealthy or have somebody who's, writing you checks, then um, there's a lot of options that you could do. I think Christy is telling you that she was in such a GPA hole that she had to like start at a community college, retake those classes, and then and just boost her GPA, and then did a formal post-bac. Um, and so yeah, so people are asking about the difference between a formal and an informal. Like you did both of them, and the reason was you couldn't get into a formal post-bac, and so that that basically, you mean you definitely like you
Mhm.
went the long route, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I can play the long game. Like,
and
is
so
what
this,
they thought.
yeah, I mean you were in a major hole, so um, no, but also I think like it's a testament to your resilience. I mean that's the bottom line is this is what you wanted, and you like took the time, and it's not easy. Um, can you unshare your screen because I think it's
Yeah, I don't even
um
know.
okay, perfect. And then somebody's asking you about you know do you feel that you improved your GPA in the formal post-bac, or do you feel that you had the higher MCAT scored helped you? I think they both did.
Yeah, both of them actually did. I needed, I think I tell my mentees, you need three things. Like you need a 3.0, like truly, like if you, or an upward trend in that case, I put those two together. So you need that. You need to get at least a 500 and an upward trending. If you've taken the MCAT multiple times, you always need an upward trend and going towards like a significant increase. And some people will say like that's plus or minus five, like above five. Because it's a, what's it called? One of those like confidence band type of test. So it's about five to get into the next confidence band. So I both honestly for my post-bac, I got it just post-bac alone a 3.95. And obviously I think I said like a 2 point something five. This is what I got, 2.6-ish. And so it took 105 units to get to those 2 points. So obviously that spoke to itself. And then I also took the MCAT twice. Obviously it's not ideal. I'll always just take it once. Like if you like I tell everyone just like focus on academics. like focus on something, like don't be like me where I did everything and anything in between. And then I think my MCAT also jumped like a very significant amount. So then it spoke to like to me being just academically ready for the rigor of medical school.
Yeah, somebody asked who says, how would they see the upward trend in your GPA if they only see a number? At medical school, not only see your number, but they see every class that you've taken everywhere. And so they have your transcripts right in front of them. So they will look at that. Obviously, if you have a 4.0, they pretty much know that, okay. But if you have like a GPA of, in the lower end, like in the lower threes, then they will look at it and see, okay, because everybody does bad, like at some point in their life. I mean, I don't know too many people that like went through and were perfect, and so they're gonna look at that, and they have all of that in front of them. So it's not like they're not just looking at a number because somebody could have a 3.8 GPA, but then got like C's and D's and biochem and other stuff. I mean, it's really rare, but that can happen. Um, this is looking at how did you choose CSU East Bay post-bac program versus competing the masters with linkages? This person's already doing a informal post-bac and having a low GPA, and they have an upward trend that's now a 2.788 and a science of 2.56. And they were
Mhm,
telling him that they need to complete the upper division to get
mhm.
their GPA up. And then both an academic and a master's next year. Gosh, I don't know if you can do both an informal and a formal together. I don't think it's possible unless you want to take like 45 units.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, I don't know, is the CSU program, is it pretty, because I know some of the post-bac programs are pretty rigid. Like I know like the UC Davis one that Dr. Campa runs, like she would literally sit down and read people the riot act that you can't work, you can't do
Yeah.
700 volunteering. That whole year
No.
you belong to that program, and they
Mm-hmm.
won't let you do. I don't know how the CSU one was, but I know the ones
Mm-hmm.
that I know of, they're
Mm-hmm.
pretty much like they won't even let you work. Like they will tell you like do not work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a couple things I probably like want to add to your answer because like doing both at the same time takes like obviously time and a lot of effort, but also a lot of money because those two, like a formal post-bac program, though it's not as expensive as a special master's program, it still costs money. Like it's not $47 per unit, but it's like mine was I think close to 375 per unit. Like I thank the heavens every day that I was able to get a merit scholarship for that. So it didn't take a toll on my finances. But I think to also add to like to give you something to think about, I applied to my like a special master's program in Vallejo and it got accepted. But I applied for those at the same time. Like I think that was what your question is. I applied for that at the same time I was applying for an academic enhancing post-bac, which is at CSU East Bay. But since that talk about they're separating your GPA, like the master's is its own and your undergraduate GPA is its own, and they care about the undergraduate a lot more. I deferred a year to go to that one school. So like, and then I was like, okay, after I apply to medical school, I'll see if I still need it. Like I'll see if I still need it. So I obviously lost my deposit, but I had it there just in case I needed to do a special master's program, just in case like I'm that type of person where I think about just in case what's my plan B. So I mean it's doable. It's like the application is not that expensive. The deposit was like $500, and you can defer. So that's depending on your situation.
This is a good question. In hindsight, how would you have gone about repairing your GPA after graduation?
Mm,
Um, After
hmm.
graduation or before? Well, before graduation and after graduation, yeah.
Yeah. Before graduation, let's do that first. Like, obviously, I have a lot of like, not regrets really, because it added to my extracurriculars. Like, either way, a lot of the things I did added to who I am, experience-wise, maturity. I figured out what I liked and what I didn't like. So I don't really regret doing like my extracurriculars, but I wished I knew how to study or like attended office hours at least. Like, at least for the last 2 years, because then it would have cut my post-bac in like some sort of like in half. Like it would have not cost me money because I got the Pell Grant to go to UC Davis. So like I I think in hindsight, before graduation, I would have taken my academics seriously, but I think I was dealing with a couple things during that time, and I was resolved that like maybe medicine wasn't for me. Like I still like wasn't being told, like I didn't lean on the right people to tell me that I was gonna make it. I only found those people after graduation. And then obviously I think after graduation, is there anything that I'm going to change now? No, because I just literally like I looked at my AMCAS GPA calculation and I planned it. Like I planned every little like decimal point because I knew like I needed to get to a 3. Like there was no way that I was not going to get to a 3. And I just committed. Like I was like, I know it was going to take 2.5 years. I have like mentees that kind of had the same problem as me. And I told them like, you'll make it, but it's a long game and you got to commit because like we can't, we don't have a second chance after a post-bac. There's no such thing as a post-bac. So just lock in is basically what I'm gonna tell
Yeah. Yeah, I think once you get bad grades, fixing those bad grades is really hard. So that's why, don't listen I mean, this is something that we've also heard too, is that some advisors are telling you to take, bio and OChem and physics and calculus all at the same time. And that's like the craziest thing you could do because that's a good way to fail. So don't take, if you have to work, don't take more than 2 STEM courses. Like that's, don't over, and also spend time. And also, I think this is something that I've heard this from one of our speakers is that while a lot of people are having fun and traveling and vacationing, you're studying. And that's something you have to realize that you're going to have to do that through your life. And those are the sacrifices you need to make. And if it didn't require, then everybody would, be a doctor. And so that's why it's tough. Um, this is somebody wants to know about, do you think that you disadvantages working full time and doing a post-bac?
you. Think it is seen as a disadvantage working full time doing post-bac? Like disadvantage as a term, like in the application, or do I think it's disadvantageous that you're doing full time, like post-bac while working? Is that like
Yeah.
I want to know what like if
Yeah, I think it's a disadvantage because you have to work 40 hours a week and go to I don't know how it's possible. And that's a disadvantage. I think once you do well on your academics, I don't know, I think that's I don't know, you want to answer that?
yeah I think nothing, if you're set on this path, nothing is worth like academic like setbacks. I think it's just so hard to rewrite them and so costly. So I think it's a disadvantage, don't do it, to do both. Like I'm just gonna say that now. I know you have to work because you gotta eat. So obviously do it. Like I did it and it's doable. But if I was you and you have resources, just like don't if you can. In regards to the application, like they have their own criteria about like why you're disadvantaged. A lot of it has to do with being 400% below poverty. Like the area that you grew up in, they ask for what high school you're in. So they kind of track exactly like where you're at and like position shortages. So I don't know enough about that to be disadvantaged, but there's an essay now. It's not called disadvantaged essay, but it's called the something like journey travel, something like
Yeah,
that.
travel,
Impact,
yeah. Impact
impact.
statement. Yeah.
Yeah, impact statement. So, which is great that they changed that because like I was like, I'm disadvantaged. When I clicked that, I was like, that's when the first time I learned that I was disadvantaged. But yes, like impact essay allows you to claim or identify that you're disadvantaged.
When and where do you apply to med school scholarships? I plan to apply next month.
Yeah, so a lot of it is that fee assistance program. So if you're applying next, whatever, like next, it opens in May. If you haven't already gotten the fee assistance program, please get it, even though like I think it takes a little bit of time to get it, maybe like 4 to 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and you have to submit a couple of stuff in there. But it's really important because you get 20 schools for free. Your secondaries are waived. And if it's still virtual, then you don't have to travel to the school itself. So it cut a lot of my costs because all of my interviews were virtual. I got the fee assistance program. So my application cycle at most for the MCAS was like like not even like maybe $100 something.
Yeah. So fee assistant program, if you even take the MCAT as well, it's about $4,000.
Yeah,
So
they'll give you
that's it.
stuff.
And then for med school application, like scholarships, like a lot of the schools, like once you admit it, that's where your negotiation improves. People are not, scholarships once you have approval. So like some of the military ones, the NHC ones, some of the medical schools have scholarships, and now some medical schools are offering full tuition assistance. So a lot of medical schools are up in their game to offer scholarships if they want to keep good students because they're losing them to those free schools. So, and there's a list of them. You could go Google free medical schools, and there's about 10 of them that are free now. So this person wants to know how medical schools find non-clinical extracurriculars just as appealing as clinical ones. Which non-clinical extracurriculars do you think made you an appealing applicant to UC Davis?
Okay. Yeah. Non-clinical. Okay. So for my extracurriculars, I think they were split even in half of clinical and non-clinical. But I did a lot that like appealed to me, like nonprofit, like underserved work, even though it wasn't clinical, um, I created this philanthropic organization called the Giveness Project. And during Christmas, we'd gather donations. It's kind of like one of those toy drives. Um, and so like I did that, but specifically for a certain population that I was passionate about. So like people who were on Medi-Cal, who were undocumented, who had children of psychoses, like they had some sort of psychiatric illness. And so that's the population I served. It wasn't clinical, it was just me gathering toys and then working with a coordinator to give it to these families because of HIPAA. Like I never saw them myself, but I came back every single year and they know me. We've never met because of HIPAA, like I said, but like they'll write notes and like write cards to tell me how much it means. And I wrote about that. Like I mentioned much earlier, years ago in this conversation of this webinar, is that like your why written is like important, but what's more important is like the emotions that you invoke when you're writing. It's like when I read something that makes me feel like it reminds me of my why medicine, I'm more inclined to really have that person be interviewed. So it's about the emotion. So like I can't really exactly tell you which non-clinical like things that I did that I was appealing to UC Davis. I think it's more or less like what are your values? And obviously a little bit of it is like know UC Davis's mission and statement. Like they love like increasing like diversity, making people feel included, working with nonprofits, working with underserved communities. So like if it's that type of work and then it makes you feel some sort of way, that's the only thing you really need.
Yeah, we're gonna have Dr. Henderson speak in a couple of weeks actually. He's also spoken twice before, so you could go back and we've asked him that same question and he answers it the best. And obviously he's the dean of admission, so
Oh yeah.
he probably has the definitive answer. This is a question. Any advice for someone who gets test anxiety?
Yes. Okay. Figure out what part of the test you're anxious about. Is it the length? Is it the material, like content? Is it like wording? Is it the type of questions that's being asked? I think asking yourself kind of a schematic of those and figuring out what areas you are afraid of, because I had to do this for the MCAT. Like I had to see like the MCAT and really analyze like what scares me about it. In general, like I do have test anxiety, and there are such things as like learning specialists that you can go to, like depending on like where you're at. Community colleges have them, undergrads I think have them. I didn't go to one in undergrad, but I did go to one in post-bac, and that really helped me assess like I'm not reading the question right. Like I get kind of in my head about it. And so by I think going to a professional, if you're able to, is really the most helpful thing that can assist you in not, I mean, I don't think my test anxiety is solved. I think it's minimized, and I'm able to like take tests like at my own pace without feeling like clamping up.
The other thing is I would say too is if you're in like at a community college or CSU or even at a UC, ask your TAs after you take a test and even before the exam, just say, hey, I just want to go over some of the things on the exam. Um, Learning specialists are huge. I actually talked to one and found out that I'm dyslexic. They use those resources. Also, there's a lot of online tests that you could do to find out what type of learner you are. Some people are graphic, some people are kinematic learners, some people. So everybody learns differently. And so those are really great tests that you could do. Somebody wanted to know about, um, I think this is a question that was asked already. Um, did So this person wants to know about what's your daily schedule look like? How many hours a day do you study a
Like in
day?
medical school
Yeah.
or
Yeah, what is
um
your typical day and typical week?
yeah, like what does it look like? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So basically lunchtime is active learning sessions. So that looks like problem-based learning, like team-based learning, peer teaching. Sometimes it's journal club. We read through some journals or literature. Oh, patient panels. Those are my favorite thing. They invite people that have like the diagnosis that we're currently studying, and they kind of explain like how, like what maybe structural barriers they face, or like how are they dealing with symptoms and insurance and things like that. So I really like our curriculum-ish. Like there's some parts that I'm definitely like, I don't like if someone tells you that they love their school so much, I would be hesitant. I love my school, but there's some parts that are in the curriculum that like not every learning thing is going to be for everybody. So for me, those like one of those two things are not for me. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays we have pre-recorded lectures, and on average it's about like, well, in the beginning it was like 28 like per week we had like tons. But now I think it's averaging out to be like 14 a week, like maybe 10 to 14 a week, and you just watch them. They're like they could be like 10 minutes long, sometimes they're 37 minutes long. I think one time I watched one that was 52 minutes long. Um, and then we have quizzes at the end of the week to like ask you about those themes. And then I study here and there, but now the second half of the medical school, like first year part, we have gotten a lot busier because we're taking on a lot of like student interest groups, which is just clubs or like orgs. I'm part of a student run clinic. So I have a lot of like things on my plate besides academics. So honestly, if I didn't have those things, I would be studying a little bit more. But as of right now, I'd be lucky to even sit down for like 4 to 6 hours of just continuous studying. Um, and then obviously I'll study on the weekends after clinic. So that's kind of what it looks like on a weekly basis.
How do you deal with failure and accept it?
Ooh, I deal with it. Do I accept it? Like, I don't mean to like joke around, but it's like failure hurts every single time. It's a form of rejection, and like it's normal to feel like inadequate. And so I think what I've been working on is sitting with it for a little bit. I think we tend to distract ourselves from like the uncomfortability of feeling the failure. Like if you need to cry it out, if you need to like sit there and like journal it out or like listen to sad music and feel it through, I think like that's probably the healthiest thing you can do. And then go through like, the stages of grieving, like then you can learn to accept it. Like you can get a little bit angry, you can just, go through it, feel it through, and then if you can't handle it on your own, remember that gauge that I said, like be sensitive to when you need help. That's really when that comes to play. And then I'm still learning to accept some of my failures from like years ago, but it's about the journey to acceptance. It's not necessarily like it's a relationship. You deal with it and you're with it, and like you can't get rid of it forever. But like I think I could say like if I had 100 failures, I've accepted like 50. Like 50% of my failures, I'm like, okay, I see why I failed. other 50% is in that part of that journey where like, oh, I'm still like breathing and I'm working on it and I'm trying to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to accept it. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Um, so this what uh how did you change the way you studied during your post-bac year that is separated from your undergraduate years?
Yeah, yeah. I sat down. I had a calendar always. I've always been kind of a calendar person. I think most of y'all have become a calendar person because like higher education makes you a calendar person. But I didn't pencil in studying. Like I didn't put 1 to 8 like library. Like I didn't do that. And like I didn't set aside dates. And also if you're like me, I'm very bad at saying no to opportunities because it just feels like I have to work a little bit harder. Especially like being a POC, to prove a point. But like in postbac, I didn't feel like I needed to prove a point. Everybody around me was struggling or they struggled, so they get it. So all I did was like obviously I didn't work either. So I went to class. I put myself in the library from like 12 to 1, or not 12 to 1, sorry. I ate lunch 12 to 1, put myself in the library from 1 to 8, waited until traffic died down and go home. And like I wouldn't do that every day because I that will lead to burnout, but I did that at least like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like obviously studying on campus and like going to like labs, those are all like learning opportunities. So like you don't need to like doing active recall all the time. But like I also did active recall. I took up Anki during post-bac. So I was doing like a lot of like active recalling, doing flashcards. I learned, here's a tip of the day. If something's really complicated, dumb it down. I know it's easier said than done, but at some point in like human anatomy, like you know how like the structures look, I started drawing them dots. Like I just needed to memorize dots at some point, and then I knew like the location of like where all these like structures were. So I like went from like complicated to uncomplicated, and then I explained it to somebody else. I didn't do that in undergrad because I was so scared to even like be wrong. But now I just explain things, and if it's wrong, they'll tell me, and I'm like, haha, who said that? Who said that that was it? And then you just learn.
Um, so were you asked about your MCAT and your GPA scores during your interview? Well, they
Mm.
see it all, so
Yeah, they saw it. So no, they didn't ask.
yeah. They see everything. They see every class that you've taken and your every MCAT score, and they know more about you that you want them to know about you. How does the rigors of med school schedule compare to the formal post-bac schedule?
It's the same, I think, to me, because I made it so. Like I took so many units that mimicked like, and I took higher division courses. So like it almost was similar. It's obviously harder now-ish because there's so much happening. And this is my full-time job. Like I think it's a third harder. Does that make sense?
This person was a non-pre-med major, probably non-science major during their undergrad. Now they're taking community college classes for their biology and chemistry. If I complete the courses, what else should I do academically before applying?
I'm doing my undergrad now and taking commercial biology. If I can play well. Okay. So you also need physics, and some schools need math, and some schools need like
Yeah,
biochemistry.
and some of
So
them
I
require
Mhm.
physiology.
Yeah. So
Um,
like there's a couple more prereqs that you might need to reconsider that
yeah,
may not be offered at community college.
so if you're in California and you're a community college student, there was and I'll look it up before we leave, but I'll put it in the chat. There is a law that passed in the 60s that if you are a community college student, I think full-time or yeah, full-time or 9 units or something, and if a class is not offered at the school, like biochemistry, you could take it at a CSU at the same cost that you would as at a community college, and you don't have to pay the open enrollment fee. I'll look that up and I'll put it on there. It's like a Senate bill that passed, and a lot of schools don't know that you have it, but I know that somebody counselor at the community college that I go to mentioned it, and I pulled it up, and somebody did this. They went to the registrars of the CSU and they said, under this law, you're going to have to. So they ended up not paying the, I don't know, $400. I think they only paid the $46. Um, and then the other part of it, so try to take maybe some upper division and MCAT. I mean, granted, if your pre-med grades were good, I mean, your undergrad grades were good, then yeah, I mean, uh, but yeah, and every like almost some medical schools have certain requirements, some don't. So like some of them want you to have physiology, some of them want you to have biochem. So you're gonna have to look through the MSAR in each website and figure out which one it is. This person wants to know what's the best thing they could do to increase their chances for UC Davis Med School. They graduated in 2022 with the statistics and completed an informal post-bac last year and applying to apply next month.
Okay.
Do what everything Christy did. That's a joke.
Oh yeah. Wait, are they applying next month already, or
Yeah.
they already
No,
completed
next
all
year, they
4?
said.
Next year, and they've already completed all.
Yeah.
What else can they do?
But to get into UC Davis.
Oh, to get into UC Davis. Oh, well, that part. Are you from California? Dr. Green always asks, "Are you from California?" That's really important. Like being from California, Davis is one of those schools that tries to serve its backyard. So I think the most important question for me
Yeah.
to you is, are you from California?
Yeah, UC Davis, and then UCR like pretty much says like Inland Empire, Riverside, San Bernardino County. So no, the mission. Like I said, we've had Dr. Green twice and we've had Dr. Henderson twice, and I would go watch their presentations because I actually literally asked this question for Dr. Henderson, and he spent like a good 7 minutes explaining what they look for. So, um, and so I think some questions are coming back up again. So this person wants to know about not having research experience as an informal post-bac student.
Mm,
What do you
you
think
don't
about
need,
that, or what?
yeah, you don't need research experience at all to get into medical school. And like it doesn't have to be lab bench work research either. Like you can do like a needs assessment at a community like nonprofit, like a community health center. So like research takes different forms, and it's up to you to to categorize it as research on the app. So it really is dependent, like what type of research is it? What's the impact of it? If you don't have it, that's okay. Just speak to the other values that you have, like the other things that you're interested in. Because like that speaks more than you just trying to like do a random like mice like research, and you're just like you have all these other things that's great, and then you're like, well, yeah, and then I looked at mice chase cheese for a little bit, and they asked like, what's the impact of that? I'm like, yeah, like if you can't speak highly about it, and I always tell my mentees that like if your eyes don't light up when you explain it, especially in during the interviews, or like the way you explain it on paper is like half-hearted, then you probably don't, that's not a good use of your time. You can't learn to love something like in that sense.
This person wants to know what's the most challenging question you were asked during your med school interviews?
That's a good one. Challenging. I
Why
think
why
no, go
medicine?
ahead. Why medicine? No, at that point I already got that in the shower, so I was good in that one. But I think the most challenging one I think are because there's different types of traditional questions are like why medicine, MMI types, like is a mix of traditional and like ethics one, bioethics. I think it's more or less like bioethics is where I fall kind of short on. Um, because I think it's difficult to assess like every perspective. I don't have an exact question for you, but I know in general, like the category that I struggled with is like uh like tell us why you think that this person deserves this versus like not deserves this. And if religion or political views comes into play, I'm not like the strongest on that. Like I'm still working on like trying to figure out how to navigate those like more complex and controversial views.
Yeah, I think those are the hardest ones. Like I know that like I did one. I was an interviewer, and I had to ask this one, like if you have um, a Nobel laureate winner who was shot by a 19-year-old male, they both come in at the same time, and you only have one operating room. Which one should go in and why? And like a Nobel laureate was like 70 years old and a 19-year-old, and so there's no right answer, and you're gonna have to like come up with some ethical reasoning. Who would you choose? And you have to present both of them as well, and then you know, but present both of them as well and make a decision. And those are, I think, the hardest one. I think the hardest one people always ask me, like, what's your weakness? Well, what would you describe as your weakness? Or those tend to be a little bit harder too. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of like we did a whole workshop on the different interview and some types of interview questions, and we posted some of them on there, and you can take a look. And then the other question is, it's people. This person wants to know. It seems that a lot of non-traditional students tend to have to take post-bac or master's degree at some point to be competitive. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think because if you're non-traditional, there's an extra step for you to prove something because I think like if you had a career beforehand, obviously you have to prove that you've had experiences that showed you that medicine is the thing for you. So completing like a post-bac in regards to like being a career changer, you that's definitely important, like doing one of those to show because if you need something to support that. And then especially if you're non-traditional and you struggle academically, you'd need a post-bac because you need those numbers to go up because that's the reality. Like the first part of the application process is just looking at your numbers. And like I obviously didn't have the best numbers. And hence why I had to do a post-bac. So it's a costly part of this process. I had a lot of support in getting to this point, like both financially and emotionally. So I'm very grateful for that.
so my question is, if you have to go back and talk to yourself through this whole process, what would you tell yourself?
We made it. Like it depends really. Like I think I needed to hear different things at different points of the journey. And I definitely like because I couldn't say it to myself, I definitely heard it from like different people, like my mentors and family. And so I think like like if it's in the beginning of this post-bac journey, I would have been like, you're gonna make it. Like just you're doing everything, like you're doing like whatever you can. So it's really important. If you said like I was going through the application process and I was feeling a little like unconfident about my application, I would have said like, but you did everything you can. My mentor told me is like as long as you did your best and like all the things that you're doing, then it's a win. It's a success either way.
Yeah, I think this person wants to know about when do you apply for medical school scholarship? And I think we covered it already. A lot of
Yeah.
them, when you apply, the schools have you have to apply and get accepted before they could offer any scholarships to you. Um, and then like even like the military ones, they want to know if you've been accepted or not. Um, and then yeah, and even like the National Health Service Corps. Uh, do you have any other input on that?
No, I think like if you're already in medical school, then I think talking to your like financial aid office is your best bet because like they have the ones that they mapped out for you. And like if you belong in a certain community or like you want to work with a certain community, you can apply for the scholarship in medical school if or at your specific medical school. If you're not in medical school yet and you're just trying to fund medical school, it's at FAP.
This person, they're from a Filipino background, first gen, and they want to know if there are any programs that are for Filipino Americans who want to go into medical school.
Oh my gosh, there's so many, it's tons. Like there's ton like you see the UCs, I can only speak for the UCs and maybe the CSUs. There's so many like Filipino Americans in health careers and I know UCLA has one. And so like
Yeah, I don't know
And
where
they,
this I don't know where this person is. I know that UC Davis has one, and I know Berkeley has a big one too.
yes.
I
So
think the
I'm not.
Berkeley is Flipex. I know the Berkeley ones. They're actually really big too.
Yeah, DM me on Instagram and maybe I could like look up some for you, depending on where you're at. I can only talk about like California ones, but they're open to like pre-meds. So it's like that's the main point of some of like I just
Yeah.
talked at one of the like Filipino American like pre-health conferences the other day. So like I there's some if you're nearby, you should attend some of them.
Um, yeah, I know this person actually. I just gave him my email. I could email them. I know a couple, and if they're in Solano, I know a couple people at Berkeley, which is close. Um, the other thing is, should you wait until you get higher MCAT score and apply, or should you apply early?
Um, it depends. Like, is this your first time taking it? If this is your first time taking it, delaying it would be better, I think, for me. And that's what exactly I did. Because if you submit on a pending score and then you didn't get what you wanted, you're still considered like a reapplicant for that school. So to me, while working with my advisors and mentors and stuff, it was best for me at the end of the day, feeling like I didn't have any regrets, knowing I put and I know the score. Like I put my best foot forward and I knew my score. So, and I know a lot of people say like don't apply past mid-May, which is fine. Like I think that's it makes sense in a numbers type of game. But like if you're bringing quality, then like it always trumps like what like the quantity is, obviously. So that's my best answer for that.
Yeah, and I would also just say like that just depends on your numbers. If you have a strong MCAT, I mean strong GPA, then yeah, this is like it's such a challenge to not have to look at your whole application and give you an advice. I don't know, that's kind of hard. When is the latest we can take the MCAT this year while still applied this cycle?
Yeah, the last days are usually September, like end of mid-September,
Se-
like September
September
13th,
9th, I think. Yeah.
something like that. But I would not take it then because like a lot of primaries close like in October or September. Like
October
I would say
15th.
like my latest would be July. Like I took it July 16th and I got my score August 16th and I applied on August 27th. So I think that's the most I would push.
So they want to know when the primary closes. I could tell you, I think it's October 15th, but
Something like
don't,
that.
yeah. But so most medical schools, I know in California and most of the schools have rolling admission, means that as soon as your application clears in mid-July, they start, uh, you know, inviting people for interviews or secondaries and then interviews. So I know like some schools, I know Davis starts in August, right? August or so, yeah, for interviews. And there's this
August.
whole saying, the early word gets the burn, right? Early bird gets the
Yeah.
early bird gets the worm. And so if you apply October 15th, your application is not going to clear till mid-November. Uh, and then by that time, they've probably interviewed and admitted 50% of their class by that point. And then they become really choosy, and then you hit Christmas break, holidays, and then after that, you may not get they may not look at your application until January, and they've already like have all these interviews scheduled. So it's gonna be really, really challenging. Um, so I would say, and it costs money. Like even with the fee waiver, I mean, you, you're the one of the lucky ones I've heard that only spend a couple $100 because I've heard people spend as much as $8,000 to apply. Um, so gonna have to learn from you how you did that besides the FAP. But
Oh yeah,
um,
I would love to talk about it. If there was a, if people have like a 3-year plan, like if you're a 3-year planner and you're about to like apply, it'll work for you the way I did it.
how many med schools did you apply to?
I applied to 28. That was 22 MD and whatever the difference is for D.
6 deals. Yeah. Yeah. I think the big challenge is that Yeah, I mean, I know somebody from our group applied to 40 medical schools and she regretted it because she was spending a lot of time. Yeah, so for DO
Yeah.
schools, um, for DO schools, do we need a LOR from a DO physician?
It's recommended, highly recommended, but I didn't have one and it was fine. As long as you have shadowing hours and you can talk as to why DO, like what is osteopathic medicine. But it would be highly recommended,
Yeah,
like shadowing.
and saying because they have lower GPA and MCAT standards is not a good one. Like you have to understand, and there's a website you could actually shadow DO doctors. It's called choosedo.org, and then you could shadow them. Yeah. Uh, uh, is there a certain number of shadowing hours required?
Not per se, like I think it'll be school specific. If you are about to apply and make a school list, or maybe now, you can pay for I think it's only $28 or something like that. It's called the Medical School something, MSR, in the AMC. And you can see like people's like the general stats of like what they accepted in regards to clinical shadowing, clinical volunteer, employment. If you attend a virtual fair, like the AAMC virtual fair, they'll give it to you at a discounted cost of $15. So I tell my mentees like the fair is for free. Come there, get, shave a little bit of the from the 28 something dollars. And then you can have this like medical school database of like if you look at UC Davis, how many of my like cohort incoming class had like clinical volunteering, like, and it will say like I think an average of the score.
And if you
For
get your
like
fee, if you get your fee waiver, that's paid for. They'll give you one for free.
yes, that's included in that for a year.
Um,
hmm Yeah, for that one, I think you'll write that email. I think it's like HS something UC Davis.
yeah, um, yeah, I'm gonna put that in there. And then yeah, I don't think I have any other questions. And
I feel
any
good.
last words of wisdom?
No, I think just to reiterate, like I'm a testament to this process is not easy, but it's not impossible. I think gather the right people, keep positive in it. I know a lot of it was like darker in some cases, but I think, like I said, like I gauged where I struggled. Obviously, some of my community always reached out. So I think with that being said, like you're not alone. I'm here. I'm part of your village now. So like I'm part of I'll take a little bit of time to answer on Instagram, but I'll get back. I'll always get back.
Um, I put that link here. Um, and then, yep, thank you again for making time on a Friday evening while you're
Yeah,
still at school.
yeah. Happy to
And
be here. I'm excited. It's an honor to even talk to you all and be part of the Pre-Med CC family.
thank you again for your time and hope that enjoy. When is your finals? Finals are coming up, right?
May 24th, but I have a midterm on May 3rd.
All right. Well, good luck with that and don't work hard and don't stress too much.
I'll try. I'll work hard, but not work hard. Is basically what I'm saying.
I always said,
Okay.
don't work too hard because they're not going to pay you more. But if you're a student, you do want to
Yes.
delay in payment.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And thank
Thanks
you,
again.
Jubin. Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Bye bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.